Hello and welcome along to the Westminster Round Up with the Sport and Recreation Alliance. I'm your host, Alex Sexton, and I'm delighted to be joined this week by the Alliance's Parliamentary and Policy Officer, Ryan McCulloch, and also Max Nichols, the Policy Officer at the Alliance. Now, we've invited half of the policy team to join us on today's Roundup because it's been such an important fortnight in the world of policy and Parliament. You may have seen on Sunday evening the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's announcement that there will be an easing of lockdown restrictions to allow the gradual phased return of play. This has had a big impact on the sport and recreation sector as many outdoor spaces and waterways are now available for physical activity. With more of a breakdown of what has been announced, I'll pass over to Max Nichols.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, as you say, it's been a busy week. Lots of new guidance and updates from government. So just kind of to go through the headlines of that. Firstly, there's been a relaxation on the amount of time you're able to leave the house for physical activities. That's now saying that it can be kind of on an unlimited basis with members of your household, and also a new rule on meeting up with one member from a different household as long as you keep a 2-metre distance. And I think that social distancing is key to remember throughout all of this guidance. The other parts of the new guidance is about the opening up of outdoor facilities. So, for example, tennis courts, golf courses, and also water recreation activities are now allowed in outdoor spaces. Another key clarification in this guidance is about coaching. So within these facilities, coaches can take part in coaching one-on-one with a student. Again, as long as those 2-metre distances are maintained. And although activities are only permissible in outdoor spaces currently, where there are indoor facilities to facilitate that, so for example toilets or changing rooms are now able to open, and it's advised that those are kept, there's no pinch points within those, and it's thought about how that's managed. And I guess the key point in this is it's up to facilities and clubs to think about this and to undertake risk assessments based on their facilities, and to only open when they believe it's kind of safe to do so.
Thanks, Max. That's a very condensed update. We know that there is so much information out there at the moment. The DCMS released some additional guidance on Wednesday evening of this week. It's all posted on the latest news section of the Alliance website, so please do head over there. There's lots of guidance, a Q&A section, hopefully a lot of information to start you on the journey of this return to play. You'll also find in this section some support around the schemes that remain available to support businesses and their staff throughout this time, some of which are incredibly important and remain open. Max, can you provide us with a short update on that, please?
Yeah, so we had confirmation this week that the job retention scheme or the furloughing scheme has been extended until the end of October. That will remain as it is until the end of July. From August, there'll be a couple of changes to that. So firstly, there'll be some flexibility on how that works. So currently, you either have to be furloughed or you're not, whereas from August, you'll be able to come back into your role on a kind of part-time basis, whilst also receiving your wage for the time you're not working, which I think is a real positive and will allow some flexibility there. The second part of the change from August is the government's going to look for employers to make a contribution of the cost of this scheme. So the employee will still receive the 80% as they're doing now, but that cost will be split between the government and the employer. They haven't announced how that's going to be managed yet, and we're expecting some further guidance on that at the end of May. Also this week, the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme opened for applications. I know the government have received lots of applications in these first couple of days. So again, for those self-employed members of the sector, this is a really useful source of income. So would encourage applications through that. And finally, the retail, hospitality and leisure grants, which are being paid out by local authorities. Lots of those have been now being paid, which is really great to those eligible clubs. I think we would encourage those clubs who haven't had any contact from the local authority or haven't received their grants yet to kind of be proactive and make contact with the local authority to find out about that, and also happy for people to come to us and we can look into that.
And of course, as Max mentions, we will be keeping a keen eye on that, and we'll also be updating our website with all of the details, the dates that these schemes end, and all the relevant links. So please do head across to our website and check those out. It wasn't only the Prime Minister's speech that happened over the previous week in Parliament. We also had a DCMS Select Committee. And Ryan, I know that you were keeping an eagle eye on this, unsurprisingly COVID-19 heavy, but what did you make of what we saw?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hi. So the DCMS Select Committee, as I think we might have mentioned last time, currently have a call for evidence on the effects of COVID-19 on its sectors of influence, if you like. So obviously sport being one of them, they're going to continue to gather evidence on the effects on tourism, arts, heritage. But it started with sport, and there was an oral evidence session on the 5th of May. And there was, I believe, the England-Wales Cricket Board, the Rugby Football Union and the English Football League giving evidence, but also Sport England and UK Sport, just split into 2 sessions there. There was some interesting stuff there, and naturally a bit of a focus on the economic impacts, if you like, or particularly on those big NGBs and on the EFL. So there was some talk about sponsorship and what money is being lost by that with the cessation of play at the moment. And I know the RFU talked about the losses they might face if the autumn internationals can't go ahead, for example, or if they go ahead in different phases behind closed doors, etc., and the financial implications for that. It's fair to say, and there's probably no point in mincing my words about this, that while the evidence given was good, the line of questioning from members of Parliament could have been better, if we put it in a friendly way. There wasn't a huge amount of focus on how, for example, talking to NGBs, how that could filter down to the grassroots level. But it was good to see Tim Hollingsworth from Sport England in there to give a bit of a rundown about how COVID-19 has affected grassroots sport. And also he had a chance to run through some of the schemes, particularly the financial kind of support schemes that Sport England have had out of late out there. And so much so that they've obviously recently extended their community emergency fund by 15 million, which they actually announced after he'd given evidence. But so there was some focus on grassroots sport, but I didn't think that the MPs quite grasped the broad remit that COVID-19, the effects that it's going to have on the different parts of the sports sector, to be honest with you.
Like you say, encouraging that Tim was there to provide this evidence and that Sport England had a big say in what was discussed. But as you mentioned, we wanted to see more, and in fact, we're hoping to do more. I believe, Ryan, you have some details for us about the first APPG for sport happening this year.
Yes, Alex. So off the back of the DCMS Select Committee evidence session, we thought it might be good if the APPG for sport could do something similar. So there is going to be an APPG for sport event on Wednesday the 20th of May, virtually obviously, between 2 and 3 p.m. And we're delighted that Ben Bradley, who's obviously the chair, is going to be joined by Tim Hollingsworth, which is great, Hugh Edwards from UK Active, and our own Lisa Wainwright, to talk about the effects of COVID-19 on grassroots sport and physical activity and recreation, because we thought it was, as I said, quite lacking in the DCMS Select Committee. So it would be quite nice, we thought, to get people together, and there'll be a chance for those in attendance to ask questions at the end. I think Ben's going to kind of spend some time asking Hugh, Tim and Lisa some questions, but it'll be really good to try and explore the actual effects on clubs across the country and physical activity organisations across the country. So anyone who wants to sign up to that who hasn't already had the invite, which has literally just gone out before we recorded this, then please feel free to email policy@sportandrecreation.org and I will send that to you.
And incredibly encouraging once again to see 3 key organisations in the sector teaming up to provide this session to our members to allow them the opportunity to discuss some of those issues that are affecting all of us at this time. So very much look forward to welcoming many of you there next Wednesday. So that just leaves us to work out what's coming up, what's on the horizon over the next couple of weeks. So Max, what should we be keeping an eye out for?
I think given the announcements this week, naturally those facilities or those sports who are more indoor based are looking ahead at when that they may be able to restart and continue. Whilst at the minute, that isn't the case, and it is very much focused on outdoor activities. We are continuing to work with DCMS to look at how that may be possible. And I think it's important that is starting to be thought about, even though at the minute, as I say, it is only outdoor events or outdoor activities that are possible.
And Ryan, anything additionally that our members should be doing at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I'd quite like to add, Alex. Obviously, we've talked to, and Max talked in great detail about the government guidance that's been published about returning to play and the phased return to play. I think it's just important to mention that obviously the government guidance is catch-all guidance, if you like. So we'd really encourage members, when it comes to return to play, to think about how the nuance of this will affect them individually, and try and think about drawing up possibly some of their own guidance on what they think their sports need to return to play, if that's happened already, or if it, for when it's going to happen in the future. And please feel free to share them with us, because that's what we're here for. So I think definitely if organisations be thinking about that would be a good thing going forward.
So another incredibly important couple of weeks will be upon us. Hopefully more opportunities for you to have your say, to have us and the wider sector answer your questions. As we've mentioned previously, please make sure you are following us on Twitter @SportRecTweets. Have a look at our guidance on the COVID-19 support section of the website. Hopefully that addresses many of the concerns you have. But if there are any particular policy questions you do have, please do email the team, policy@sportandrecreation.org.uk, and we'll do our best to communicate with who we need to find you the answer and provide the clarification we best can. We'll be returning for another Westminster Round Up in the next couple of weeks. It just leaves me to thank Ryan and Max for their time and for providing the very valuable policy insight, and we'll see you very soon.